Натисніть ще, будь ласка, кнопку на мікрофоні перед тим, як починати. Можна? Продовжуємо роботу в українському кризовому медіа.
We continue our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and now we will speak about our speaker is Emil Kurbedinov, human rights defender and activist. Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. First, I would like to speak about the price and the situation that is now in Crimea. Frontline Defenders is the organization that defends human rights defenders and activists, those who work in conditions of danger and threat. And this nomination, this award is represented for the first time, and for me and my colleagues, this is the impulse. This is a drive, and in this way we see that international organization, Frontline Defenders included, they monitor the situation in Crimea, and they monitor the activity of defenders, and they understand the situation and persecutions that are going on in Crimea. About the situation in Crimea. So the pressure on civil society and human rights defenders continue. So these persecutions continue. The pressure increases. And the example of this is this year, starting this year in 3 months, tens of activists were arrested and were sent to detention facilities, and there were also searches and court hearings, and they continued to fight, to struggle in the form they believe it is efficient to do. And in the territory of Crimea, journalists are persecuted, and there was a criminal case started against Mykola Semena, and he is the journalist who expressed his opinion on the situation of Crimea, and Russia condemned him in separatism, and there are criminal proceedings against him. From the start of our work, the first thing Russia wanted to do is to create information vacuum concerning court hearings that are now in Crimea, and we, by our active actions, try to help, and Russia tries to have court hearings behind closed doors, and the situation in St. Petersburg, the prosecutor said that the social and political situation in Russia is not stable, and these cases on terror, we ask to close this proceedings, and these court hearings, they are held behind closed doors. People come to this building and they stay near the building, and people and activists, they continue their activity, and it is important. This is big work, and Nikolai Paluzov, Russian advocate in Artem Chigo's case, and he was seized from his hotel in Crimea. He was interrogated and videotaped, and also they reject the secrecy and all other important aspects of lawyers' work. And there was press conference in Kiev, and I participated. And on the 26th of January, I was arrested, and there was a search, and they sent me to detention facilities for 10 days, and I connected with my professional activity, and also there was pressure on defenders, and this is part of it. So, and all these realities, there are also positive aspects, I constantly say, and this is my subjective opinion, but it is confirmed by the facts. Activists, defenders, and lawyers, they continue their work despite threat. They become more united, and activists and relatives of detainees, they created the Crimea Solidarity platform, and each month they gather and they provide support to each other. And our children fund that helps children of those who were detained, and other platforms, and people get united and at these platforms, and this is a positive aspect of this. I would like to say that also support from mainland Ukraine is important, and the support of defenders in Ukraine, of NGOs, for us this is important. We feel this, and I would like to remind to you that journalists can not travel to Crimea, and there are cases that are heard in Rostov-on-Don, and they do not highlight these events. And also 4 people were received the sentences, and 15 people are in detention facilities of Simferopol, and then they will be brought to Rostov-on-Don, and there will be, as I call it, military tribunal, and they can get sentences up to life sentence, and these are politically motivated sentences. And so you can send letters of support. You know how to do it, and this is efficient, and it supports people. Among those 15 people who are in prison now, there are defenders, and I traveled there, and my Emil Kurbedinov, and he is the and Artem Chigur's for his views. He is persecuted for many years, and for several years they are in Russian prisons. So I want to say about the award. This award is important for all of us who work in Crimea, and this is not award only to me, but also for all advocates and lawyers who work here and in Crimea, who are not afraid to do their job, and despite persecutions, they highlight what is going on there. They are not afraid, and they provide motivation to other people in Crimea and outside, that one can fight with peaceful means. This is our main principle. And there is complete openness and publicity in our activity. If you have questions, please ask. Please introduce yourself first. Tatiana Pechonchik, Center of Information about Human Rights. I would like to thank you for your work in Crimea. I believe that it is even more important. Unfortunately, from occupied territories, many activists fled, and those people who are ready to defend others and put themselves under threat. There are not so many people there like you. And this is very important that you got this award. And I have two questions to you. And the first one about the Mykola Semyon case. What is your opinion at this stage? What are the trends in this process? And maybe his sentence will be suspended, or maybe he will give a positive verdict. And also about his case, there are many letters and support. And does it influence the court? Do judges know about it? And the second one about Emil Kurbedinov, maybe you can share some recent events in his case. Is there any hope that he will come and be free and his career? Maybe this is a difficult case. About Nikolai Semyon's case. Now they review the case in essence, and we are sure 100% that he will be convicted, and there is hope because there is huge resonance of this case here and abroad. We hope that, and taking into account his health and age, we hope for a suspension, and this verdict maybe will be done, and we try to prepare documents for you, the European Court and other institutions, and also the work that is carried out here that is done by defenders and organizations and campaigns of support. Special services of Russia, they know about it, and in the recent materials about this case, they also provide materials from sites of these organizations and also about support, and they say that these people outside are indicated as political prisoners and they shouldn't be released because they can just flee and hide somewhere. So they know about the actions at the international level, they follow the situation, and they also add these documents to the materials of these criminal cases. About Kurbedinov, now there is a process ongoing and the investigation continues. I know that I'm not the advocate in this case. My colleagues who work on this, Emil Kurbedinov, he is an active man, and being in prison, he continues his work. He also writes about violations inside the detention facility, and there was an attempt of his abduction, and he was trying to start criminal cases against these FSB officers, and when he was sent to prison, they tried through his children to make psychological pressure on him, and my colleagues told about it, and they also included the social service for children, and they tried to make some actions in order to deprive him of his parents' rights. And due to the work of my colleagues in Crimea, this case now is not, and now he is still in prison, and what our organizations do outside Crimea. Russia knows about this action. Russia monitors the situation, and it influences those who are in prison, and also it influences also the vector of the work of the Russian bodies of prosecution. Next question, please. Eskinder Bariev, Crimea Center and Crimea Tatar Majlis representative. I would like to thank you for your professionalism and your courage. And you, as a lawyer of Mr. Safolayev, I would like to ask you about his state of health, because you are one of those who saw him recently. And what is his state of health, and what should be done in order to help him, in your opinion? Ruslan Ziltulayev. Yes, Ruslan Ziltulayev is a man who was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and this was done by military court. And we appealed against this decision, and he started a hunger strike the next time. This is the second time he did this, and he demanded different types of requirements. He asked to have a meeting with the consul of Ukraine, and the consuls were allowed to come, and then Russia started dirty campaign, and in REN TV channel they had a program where Russian channel says that Ukrainian consulate finance and support terrorism and Crimean terrorism, that they finance that and they turn them in prison. So this is the next wave, and we will deal with this separately. Ruslan Zultulayev, he continues with what was from the start of his arrest. He stated the same position, and we assess these criminal cases not in terms of the convictions that are made. We do not look in those papers 12 years, 5 years. We just look at those people, how they behave in prison, if you see this. So we did not lose any cases, and the benefit is on our side. So they continue to state the same, and they continue to defend their rights. So those who are here in the mainland Ukraine, there is big support from Mustafa Dzhemilev, and he also they feel support, and he feels the support, and he gets letters, a lot of letters, and it provides motivation for him, and this work is really important. And in these cases, there is legal aspect that should be dealt with, but also there is a support not only of those people who are in detention, but also of their relatives, their children, and this work is done by many people, including you, and this is a positive aspect, and it helps all those who are in detention now. Crim SOS. And you live in Crimea. How do you see the situation? What are the prospects? And about the arrest of yours, do you see some risk? Are you afraid? What can happen? As any normal human being, I have some doubts, and we made our choice. We understand that this work is necessary, and we do it. And about the future of Crimea, we see it as bright, and we and our children, they will live in free Crimea, and you will be able to read anything you like, you will be able to pray, and what else Russia can do, it doesn't matter. We will fight, and we will move forward. Even if we will be alone, we are obliged to do this. This is our land, and this is what we will do.
Є ще запитання?
Since there are no further questions, thank you very much for what you are doing, and we wish you all the best.